Those who've been to the last couple of our events will have seen that we had a spotlight session looking at the marketing of Barbie, and then last year we had a spotlight session looking at the marketing of Wicked, and most of the feedback from people who commented on it was, don't just go for the big films, what about the medium-sized films as well? This film started off as a medium-sized film, but then grew, and we're going to learn from Joe and Paul at LIONSGATE what made The Housemaid spark in the way it did. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Phil and team, for having us. It's so great to be here, and good afternoon. I'm Paul Sophocles, if you don't know who I am, Theatrical Sales Manager at LIONSGATE. Great to see so many of my friends and colleagues in exhibition and distribution. I'm going to briefly run through this dating and competitive landscape. So I just want to start by saying that this type of box office success does not happen often, especially for a non-legacy studio like LIONSGATE. So I want to thank all the exhibitors in the room for their support. And you guys got on board right from the start, and that's really important because, you know, if you've got a good film, show it off. You know, and if you're allowed to, of course, because obviously we're a US-owned company. So on to the nuts and bolts of the film. Here are some stats for you. It is LIONSGATE UK's second highest grossing film ever, the number one being The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. It did 7.3 times its opening weekend, compared to Avatar: Fire and Ash, which did 4.8 times its opening, which was released obviously at the same time. And look at that runtime. That made a huge difference. It was program friendly, something we have reiterated to the US with regards to sequel. A film called The Housemaid does not need to be as long as Lawrence of Arabia. So these were our comps, and I thought it would be a lofty achievement to get anywhere near those numbers. Want to know what our internal box office target was? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Shout out a number. 12. Right, it was 15 million, and we more than doubled that. So obviously we were absolutely delighted. That's the expected conversion, looking at those comps. That was the actual conversion. So we over-indexed by 2.5 times as much as the US. So we decided to stick to our original release date of Boxing Day. The US were originally there, but they decided to move forward to the 19th. We just added 3 days of previews. Those previews did 1.36 million. It then opened to 3 million on the Boxing Day weekend. Its Boxing Day figure of 709K was the biggest since Little Women back in 2019. It opened at number 2, and it stayed at number 2 for 2 weeks. Then it got to number 1 on weeks 3, 4, and 5. It was the cinematic equivalent of Bryan Adams' Everything I Do It For You. So before I hand you over to Joe, there are a couple of things worth mentioning that helped achieve early traction for the film. We showed it to exhibs 2 months before, on the 30th of October. We then held a multimedia at the Odeon Leicester Square on the 8th of December. Now, this is really early for these types of US so-called blockbuster type movies. If you've got a good film and the US allow you, you've got to screen it early. I mean, it's an easy thing to say, but there are a lot of red tape to get through, especially when you're dealing with the US. And another key point, we achieved all this success with not one member of the talent coming over to the UK. There was no UK premiere. All we did was get the buzz from the US and in the US premieres, which was one in New York and one in LA. So I will now hand you over to Joe, who will run through the campaign.
Hello, my name is Joe Palmer, Head of Marketing at LIONSGATE. I appreciate it's gone 5 o'clock, end of a long day, and it looks like I'm going to take you through the most boring stuff ever, but hopefully it won't be. And if it is, it's nearly over. Put simply, females, and specifically 15 to 44. That was our primary target audience, and something that we were very strict about as we were developing the campaign. We didn't want to get bogged down, didn't want to get distracted by other opportunity audiences. We wanted to be really clear that this was an audience that we were going to super serve, and specifically at that time of year, because as Paul showed, that was the gap in the market at the time. It wasn't until about 2 weeks out from release that we started considering wider audiences, 45 plus females or any males. In terms of creative positioning and sort of tone of the film, we knew that the film could over-convert in the UK, but that assumption was driven by a specific set of comps: 50 Shades of Grey, Gone Girl, Girl on the Train, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. These aren't just fun movies, they are elevated, smart, book-to-film thriller adaptations, or at least they were presented as such. They were minimally designed campaigns and artwork that were simple, clean, and precise. And I don't point this out to be harsh to our American colleagues, but their artwork was great for broad popcorn audiences. It wasn't what we needed and didn't have enough of a connection to the house-made book artwork that we felt supported a 15-plus conversion. This was the US artwork, and what we did was brief Empire Design on hundreds of different options that we could change the artwork for the UK and Ireland campaign. This is just a small sample of what some of those options look like, but we literally went through hundreds of these to land on our final artwork that you will have seen rolled out in the UK. It was artwork that felt slick, simple, elevated, and had a strong colour link back to the original book artwork. And I'm not pointing this out to say that this artwork is why The Housemaid over-converted so impressively in the UK. Of course it's not, but it's a good example of a seemingly small local nuance that we identified and then explored literally hundreds of routes to best serve our audience. And it was that care and rigour that we applied to every element of the campaign. Moving on to some campaign themes, basically these are the things that we always kept coming back to and asking ourselves, how does everything we're doing fit within these pillars? First of all, not blind to the fact we were blessed with some of the best looking cast in recent memory. I can only imagine your disappointment when Paul and I stood up to take you through this. But we had two powerhouse female leads and we knew that we should lead with them, and then bring in the sexy star power of Brandon Sklenner and Michele Moroni for opportune moments. However, perfection is an illusion. This was our second pillar and our reminder to infuse the campaign with mystery, tension, and suspense, always hinting at the darker themes going on under the surface. We wanted our campaign to convey seduction, danger, mystery, and intrigue, keeping audiences off balance, questioning what's real and whose side are they on, and always asking more questions than answering them, driving a sense of we have to see this movie to believe it. Ultimately, so audiences could feel that they could discover this film together, and that's where we really lent into the seasonality and Boxing Day release messaging in order to create a sense of event movie for the holidays. We ran an extensive radio promotion with the largest commercial radio station in the UK, The Hits, hijacking Christmas playlists and firmly positioning The Housemaid as the one to watch this Christmas. This was about positioning the film as something that audiences needed to see on opening weekend to avoid spoilers and be part of the zeitgeist. To help do this, we needed to fuel the fans. This was about leveraging the rabid fandom associated with the book, but also amplifying influential voices that we had won over through the campaign to reach wider audiences, always reinforcing the film's theatricality by focusing on the twists and turns that you won't see coming. And never missing an opportunity to be wicked. This is how we hint at the darker side of the film's plot twists. Wicked for Good opened 5 weeks before The Housemaid, offering a sheer volume of eyeballs that we couldn't miss, even if it meant cutting a seemingly impossible PG-rated trailer for this 15-cert movie. With thanks to creative agency Silk Factory and the BBFC, who I have to say were quite lenient here, we scraped through with the necessary rating to add millions of eyeballs at a crucial time in the run-up to our release. For those of you interested, that was version 19 of that trailer. We entered into our paid media window in December and took an always-on approach for that entire month, with a campaign that delivered over 85 million impressions and reached over 95% of all females aged 18 to 44. At an exhibition level, we rolled out studio level support across trailering, large formats, online and social, with festive Christmas cards from the Winchester family wishing our audience a Merry Christmas with subtle dots of blood smeared on the inside, playing up to the theme that perfection is an illusion. And online, where our audience spent most of their time, we rolled out a highly shareable video movie invite with our friends at Powster, inviting audiences to discover the secret together with specific cinemas and showtimes. Paul already mentioned, but Talent Support Plan A wasn't going to happen for various reasons, but with this cast, it turned out it just didn't matter. The LA and New York premieres provided enough coverage and social media friendly snippets for it to feel as if they were here, and we made sure that we rolled all of that in the UK as well. I'll skip that. But what that meant was that we had some money that we could use for other things. So we pivoted into early screenings, and the ability to do that was vital for the campaign's success. So from early December, we started a robust, eventized influencer screening program, and early enough to take all of that content and that sentiment and rerun it in our advertising, giving a sense of FOMO with our audiences. Attendees of those screenings featured voices of key BookTok influencers that we literally worked with from day one. So Francesca Pavis, she is a BookToker who we sent to set. That's her on set with Sydney Sweeney, and then on the red carpet of the LA premiere as well, complementing a much wider BookTok strategy that we had, where we worked with literally hundreds of micro influencers to react to everything that we put out into the world. And as I mentioned, carefully taking all of that buzz and excitement and repackaging it into our advertising, bleeping out any spoilers, ensuring that in the final weeks we drove the internet into a craze, flooding social media channels with one clear message: that you have to see this movie to believe it. And the rest is history. We opened very well, but held even better. And if there's one thing that we do incredibly well at LIONSGATE, it's that we back our winners. See the UK box office #1 smash hit became our primary message, and we hammered that out for 5 weeks. We spent more than we've ever spent on sustained media, chasing down a huge conversion, a 7 times opening, and over 32 million at the UK box. Thank you, not just for your time today, but your support on this campaign. We're very aware that we couldn't have done any of this without all of your support. We can't wait to do it all again next Christmas with The Housemaid's Secret, which goes into production later this year.